Hi everyone, I just wanted to come on here and thank every single one of you for your support.
I got it off the court, so I've actually got the line I need.
Hi everyone. Before anything else, take a second and think about this. A young player walks off a Grand Slam court in tears. First round exit. Scoreboard says loss. Cameras capture heartbreak. Critics whisper. Social media debates. Normally, that's where the story fades. But what if that loss wasn't an ending? What if it was the ignition point of something much bigger? Because what happened next didn't just shake tennis. It shook culture. Shockwave. Alex Eala didn't just compete at the 2026 Australian Open, she triggered a movement. The lights of Melbourne Park dimmed, yes. But the spotlight? It only grew brighter. And now that spotlight isn't limited to center court. It's global. It's cinematic. It's streaming into millions of homes worldwide. Because Alex Eala has landed on Netflix. Let that sink in. Not as a background extra. Not as a passing mention. But as one of the emotional pillars of a global sports documentary moment. Welcome back to Champions Tennis, where we go beyond forehands and scorelines. Today, we're talking about transformation. About impact. About the precise second a tennis prospect turns into a global icon. When Alex Eala stepped onto the courts of the 2026 Australian Open, most casual fans thought they were watching a promising young lefty testing herself on the big stage. Analysts talked about ranking momentum. Commentators mentioned potential. But something else was happening. Something electric. Her fearless baseline exchanges weren't just rallies. They were declarations. The roar from the Filipino crowd wasn't background noise. It was a statement. Every point felt symbolic. Every fist pump felt historic. The Philippine flag rising in Melbourne wasn't just patriotic pride. It was decades of waiting condensed into a single fortnight. And here's the twist nobody predicted. The court was only the first act. Because while fans were still replaying highlights and debating that triple break opening set, Netflix had already been rolling cameras. The streaming powerhouse behind Drive to Survive and Breakpoint shifted its lens toward Melbourne. The new series, Ball Kids, explores the unseen heartbeat of the tournament. The sprinting, diving, laser-focused teenagers who keep matches flowing under brutal heat and unimaginable pressure. Narrated by Australian comedian Celia Pacquola, the series exposes the silent tension behind every serve and every changeover. But insiders quickly noticed something. Whenever pressure peaked, whenever emotion surged, whenever the atmosphere thickened into something almost cinematic, the gravitational center was Alex Eala. Her matches weren't just competition. They were atmosphere. One early scene already circulating among viewers captures her moments before her main draw debut. No dramatic soundtrack. No scripted speech. Just quiet focus. A silent prayer. Shoulders carrying more than a racket bag. And nearby, a ball kid watching, eyes wide, witnessing history from 3 feet away. That image alone reframes everything. Because for millions across Southeast Asia, she wasn't just another name in a draw. She was the answer to a question asked for generations. When will one of ours stand among the giants? Social media erupted the moment rumors of her presence in the documentary surfaced. Eala on Netflix trended within hours. Posts describing her as carrying a nation gathered hundreds of thousands of reactions almost instantly. And that reaction tells you this isn't hype. This is representation. For decades, tennis storytelling has centered around icons like Roger Federer, Serena Williams, and Rafael Nadal. Legends, royalty, generational titans. But now, woven into the narrative architecture of a global streaming production, is a young Filipina rewriting what global tennis visibility looks like. That matters. It signals a shift. The producers understand where the future energy lives. It's in digitally connected, fiercely passionate fanbases across Asia. It's in Manila watch parties at 2 a.m. It's in Dubai stadium chants that sound like home games. Critics are already praising Ball Kids for humanizing the machinery of a Grand Slam. For showing that tournaments aren't just statistics, they're ecosystems of emotion. But for us, there's something even more powerful. It immortalizes Eala's 2026 Melbourne chapter not as a footnote in a database, but as a cinematic memory burned into sports history. And now we rewind. January 2026. Australian Open. Melbourne Park buzzing. Alex Eala enters ranked world number 49. Not as a wild card curiosity. Not as a hopeful underdog. But as a legitimate threat. Fresh off momentum from the ASB Classic. Confidence visible. Movement sharper. Serve placement improved. First round opponent, Alicia Parks. Raw power. Explosive serve. Aggressive instincts. On paper, a dangerous matchup. What happened next shocked even seasoned analysts. Eala stormed out of the gates. Triple break in the opening set. Against a server of that caliber. She painted lines. Manipulated angles. Used her lefty spin to drag Parks wide and exploit recovery gaps. The Filipino crowd transformed Court 3 into Manila South. Every winner detonated into cheers that echoed beyond the stadium walls. For a moment, it looked like a coronation. Then tennis reminded us why it's cruel. Momentum shifted. Parks found rhythm. Margins tightened. Unforced errors crept in. The weight of a nation, subtle but real, settled onto young shoulders. And despite the brilliance, despite the audacity, the match slipped away. First round exit. But here's the crucial detail. The loss didn't feel like collapse. It felt like foreshadowing. In her post-match press conference, she didn't deflect. She didn't dramatize. She spoke about growth. About hunger. About returning stronger. Now imagine watching that moment in a Netflix documentary, knowing what comes next. Because what came next wasn't retreat. It was resurrection. And that resurrection didn't happen quietly. It happened in the desert. And when it did, the tennis world had no choice but to pay attention. If Melbourne was the fall, then Dubai was the reckoning. Because while the world was dissecting her first-round exit at the Australian Open and adding ball kids to their watch lists, Alex Eala was doing something far more dangerous than posting motivational quotes. She was adjusting. Quietly. Precisely. Strategically. The plane touched down in the Middle East and the desert air carried more than heat. It carried doubt. The Dubai Tennis Championships is not a rebuilding stop. It is a shark tank. A WTA 1000 battlefield packed with top 10 predators, seasoned veterans, and champions who smell hesitation from across the net. Analysts were polite but cautious. Promising, they said. Learning curve. Needs experience. Translation. Not ready yet. And then the draw dropped. Jasmine Paolini. World number 8. Former Dubai champion. Grand Slam finalist. A compact storm of relentless footwork and counterpunching precision. Most previews predicted efficiency. Straight sets. Routine progression. The tennis world had already penciled Paolini into the quarterfinals before the first ball was struck. But here's the thing about narratives. They shatter under pressure. From the opening rally, something felt different. Eala wasn't testing waters. She was dictating current. The wide lefty serve opened the court instantly. The forehand angle dragged Paolini into uncomfortable territory. The backhand down the line arrived without hesitation. 6-1. Let that breathe. 6-1 against the world number 8. This wasn't scrappy survival. This was controlled aggression. Winners from defensive positions. Depth that pushed Paolini behind the baseline. Court geometry manipulated like a chessboard. The Dubai crowd shifted from casual curiosity to stunned attention. But champions do not surrender quietly. Paolini recalibrated. Increased pace. Shortened points. Pressured the second serve. The second set tightened into something volatile. Every hold felt earned. Every break point felt seismic. At 6-5, Eala stood serving to stay in the match. And here is where ghosts matter. Melbourne lingered. The triple break that slipped away. The main draw debut that ended too soon. This was the psychological checkpoint. Slip here, and the narrative writes itself. Instead, she held. No panic. No retreat. Into the tiebreak. The Filipino community in Dubai, thousands strong, transformed the stadium into something electric. Chants rolled like thunder across the hard court. It didn't feel like neutral territory. It felt like Manila transplanted into desert sand. At 6-5 in the tiebreak, match point on her racket, she had a choice. Push the ball safely. Extend the rally. Hope for error. She chose courage. Full commitment forehand. Depth. Pressure. Paulini's reply sailed inches long. Silence for half a second. Then eruption. Racket dropped. Hands over face. A release that carried 2 months of scrutiny. This wasn't just an upset. It was recalibration of global perception. Post-match, she didn't boast. Didn't dramatize. She acknowledged Paulini's stature. Spoke about competing at that level being an achievement. Humility layered over seismic impact. And the statistics. This marked her third career win over a top 10 opponent, adding to victories over Madison Keys and IGA Swiatek. But numbers only tell part of it. The real shift was technical. Analysts reviewing footage identified 3 major upgrades. First, serve placement. In Melbourne, second serves drifted into predictable zones. In Dubai, she targeted body and wide angles with surgical intent. Second, transition timing. Instead of retreating after heavy exchanges, she stepped forward, cutting points short. Third, emotional pacing. No visible spirals after missed shots. No rushed between-point tempo. She controlled rhythm like a veteran. This wasn't overnight magic. It was refinement. Growth accelerated under spotlight. And suddenly, the whispers changed tone. No longer potential. Now, threat. No longer great story. Now, contender. The desert victory reverberated across tennis media. Rankings projections updated. Sponsorship chatter intensified. Because here's what makes this even bigger: timing. With Netflix amplifying her Melbourne humanity and Dubai showcasing her competitive steel, the dual narrative became irresistible. She wasn't just talented. She was compelling. Marketable, yes. But more importantly, authentic. The Philippine sports community responded instantly. Olympic projections began floating across headlines. The road to the 2028 Summer Olympics suddenly felt tangible. Imagine that entrance ceremony. Philippine flag. Top 20 ranking. Global recognition not as novelty, but as established force. And don't underestimate the ripple effect. Young players across Southeast Asia are watching this arc in real time. The message is clear. The pathway is real. The ceiling is movable. The geography of tennis power is expanding. And still, we are only 2 months into the season. That's the part that should make every competitor uneasy. Because momentum this early signals something deeper than a hot streak. It signals trajectory. Melbourne heartbreak became documentary depth. Dubai redemption became ranking leverage. And the blend of those two created something rare: narrative gravity. When she walks onto court now, she doesn't carry just expectation. She carries inevitability. The question has shifted from, can she compete? To, how far can this go? And that is a dangerous transformation for the rest of the tour. But we're not finished. Because the technical growth and signature win are only one side of this evolution. There's another dimension building quietly in the background: commercial acceleration, global branding, and the psychological weight of becoming a pioneer. The kind of weight that breaks some athletes and elevates others into generational icons. Which direction will this go? That's where the story turns next. So here we are, 2 months into 2026, and what started as a promising season has turned into something far more volatile. Because now the conversation is no longer about whether Alex Eala belongs. It is about how high this surge can carry her before the rest of the tour fully adjusts. And make no mistake, the adjustment is coming. The scouting reports are thicker. The locker room awareness is sharper. Opponents are no longer seeing a rising name. They are seeing a problem. But here's what makes this moment so compelling. The momentum surrounding her is not just technical. It is cultural. It is commercial. It is generational. After the seismic upset over Jasmine Paolini at the Dubai Tennis Championships, conversations shifted from highlight reels to projections. ranking simulations began circulating among analysts. If she strings together consistent quarterfinals at WTA 1000 level events, the top 30 becomes not just realistic but imminent. If one Grand Slam run clicks, second week, maybe even quarterfinal territory, the top 20 door swings wide open. And once you enter that space, everything changes. Seedings shift. Draws soften. Confidence compounds. The belief becomes self-sustaining. But the deeper layer, the one fewer broadcasts explore, is the psychological transition from hunter to hunted. 4 years, Alex Eala played with nothing to lose. Underdog energy is freeing. It allows bold shot selection, fearless angles, calculated risk. No. She walks onto court with expectation trailing her footsteps. The chance in Dubai proved something powerful. She is no longer a neutral presence anywhere. Whether in Melbourne, Manila, or the Middle East, there is a surge of support that transforms neutral courts into charged arenas. That is advantage. But it is also responsibility. The pioneer effect is real. For Southeast Asian tennis, she is not just climbing a ranking ladder. She is widening the ladder for everyone behind her. Young players across the Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand, and Malaysia are watching this unfold in real time. They are seeing a pathway that once looked distant suddenly appear tangible. And representation at this scale matters. For decades, the dominant imagery of women's tennis centered around Europe and North America. Legends like Steffi Graf and Monica Seles defined eras. Icons such as Serena Williams reshaped power narratives. Now, woven into that evolving tapestry, is a Filipina left-hander who is redefining geographic expectation. And timing, again, is everything. The visibility boost from Ball Kids amplifies her humanity just as her on-court results amplify her legitimacy. That dual exposure is rare. Fans do not just see winners. They see vulnerability in the locker room. They see silent prayers before first serves. They see composure after defeat. That layered storytelling builds loyalty that statistics alone cannot manufacture. Commercial interest has responded accordingly. Global brands are increasingly aware that Southeast Asia represents one of the fastest-growing digital sports markets on the planet. A player who blends elite performance with authentic cultural connection becomes more than an athlete. She becomes a bridge. And bridges are powerful. Meanwhile, Olympic projections hover in the distance. The road to the 2028 Summer Olympics is not abstract anymore. Ranking thresholds, qualification pathways, potential seeding scenarios, all are being quietly evaluated. Picture that scene for a moment. Opening ceremony. Philippine flag. A ranking that commands respect, not surprise. That image alone fuels an entire nation's sporting imagination. But let's pull back to the immediate battlefield. The 2026 calendar is relentless. Hard courts transition to clay. Clay shifts to grass. 5 more Grand Slam chapters remain unwritten. The next test will not simply be about raw shot-making. It will test adaptation. Clay demands patience and point construction discipline. Grass rewards reflexes and low-margin precision. The question is not whether she can produce brilliance. We have seen that. The question is whether she can sustain evolution across surfaces while carrying the growing spotlight. Because this is where many promising trajectories wobble. Early breakthroughs generate noise. Noise generates scrutiny. Scrutiny magnifies every dip in form. And yet, if the first 2 months have revealed anything, it is this: she absorbs setbacks as fuel. Melbourne did not fracture her. It fortified her. Dubai did not inflate her ego. It sharpened her focus. That pattern matters. It suggests structural growth, not emotional fluctuation. And the ranking math reinforces the possibility. A few deep runs, a couple of statement wins against top 15 opponents, and suddenly the top 10 conversation shifts from fantasy to forecast. Is that ambitious? Absolutely. Is it unrealistic? Not if progression continues at this rate. But here's the most electrifying layer of all. We are witnessing this transformation in real time. Not through nostalgic documentaries years later. Not through retirement tributes. Right now. Each tournament adds texture. Each match contributes to a narrative arc that feels almost scripted in its symmetry. From tears in Melbourne to triumph in Dubai. From locker room stillness to desert eruption. From prospect to giant killer. And we are barely at the prologue. So now I turn it to you. Because this isn't just analysis. It's participation. Did you feel that shift in Dubai? Did that tiebreak against Paulini feel like a hinge moment for the entire season? How far does this surge go? Quarterfinals at the next slam? Top 30 before Roland Garros? A WTA 1000 final before summer? Debate it. Predict it. Own your stance. Because seasons like this don't come often. And when they do, the fans who engage early become part of the story's foundation. The 2026 season is shaping into a thriller, and we are only in the opening act. More pressure is coming. Bigger stages. Louder arenas. Sharper opponents. But if the evidence so far tells us anything, it's this: Alex Eala does not shrink under weight. She expands. Asia's pride is not approaching. She has arrived. The tremors have already begun. And the aftershocks? They're only getting stronger. Keep watching. Keep believing. Because this journey isn't slowing down. It's accelerating.